This is the Grow Podcast, and I'm Wendy Jo, and this is my co-host, Ashley. How are you this week, Ashley?
I am good. I'm so happy the sun came out this week. It's
Mm-hmm.
wonderful. I got my dose of vitamin D.
Nice. Is it real hot where you are?
Not hot yet. It's the perfect temperature to sit in the sun and it feels really good. So like 70-degree-ish weather.
Oh, yeah, that's perfect. I love that. Yeah, it's gotten quite hot here in Arkansas already.
Oh man.
Um, in fact, I was just wondering, maybe we'll still have a couple of cool days, but I'm not sure. It's pretty humid and hot already.
Oh man. And it's like that throughout the entire summer?
Yeah, it's pretty long summer, into what I would consider the fall if I was still in the Northeast. So, by mid-October, it's starting to cool down a bit.
All right.
But yeah. So this week we're talking about energy. Speaking of, the sun is one big ball of energy, right?
I love it.
Yeah, and energy is all around us. We were taught in school, we were all taught that you can't create it or destroy it, right? So it's just flowing all the time around us.
Yeah, it can only be transmuted. Yeah. And
Mhm.
and I love the idea of it because it lets me know that anytime that I feel stuck, it's not going to be like that forever because I know it has to move.
That is a really good point. We're not static creatures, we're moving, and the energies around us and within us. And other cultures have been talking about it for a long time. In Chinese medicine there's qi, right? In Ayurveda, I think it's called prana.
Yeah.
So the energy within us and around us has been discussed for quite a long time, and we can harness that energy for healing. I
Mhm.
really believe.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we take for granted that we're energetic beings in a lot of ways. Like we think about like our blood flowing and red blood cells moving. So each red blood cell is its own individual cell, but together they flow and they create energy. Uh,
Right.
I had some of my first experiences with what do they call the energy in acupuncture? Merida?
Oh, chi, and the meridians.
The meridian, yes, the
Hmm.
meridian energy. Um, that my first experience with acupuncture was almost life changing because like I could feel that energy collection during the experience. And so I had some of the best sleeps during acupuncture, and the best meditations during acupuncture. And so, to your point about ancient chi and all the other ways that we collect energy,
Hmm.
um, I think that we forget to pay attention to how we manage our energy flow.
Right. Well, and so I hear people all the time say how exhausted they might feel, or that they just don't feel like things are flowing properly. And I really feel like it has to do with how the energy is circulating in the body. You talked about the blood flow. That's one part of our life force, blood, right? But we have an electrical system. There's definitely energy flowing.
At all times.
Right. And sometimes we can get kind of low on energy and not really feel that life force that can be within us.
Yeah, I struggle with that during the cold season, during the winter months. I feel so constricted, and it's hard for me to find energy flow. It's hard for me to be able to even perceive it because it's so cold.
Right. Yeah, I can relate to that as well. It just feels like everything slows down and it's hard to harness what we need. But it is possible to do. And
Mhm.
I think when you're talking about different seasons too, I think it's sort of a natural thing that at certain parts of the year we feel less energetic or we feel less of the flow. I do think we can still tap into it and make it grow, but maybe it's also sort of natural ebb and flow of life.
I think so. So before, I didn't want to interrupt you, but before you finished, I wanted to say the thing I think of is hibernation. I do think
Mm,
part of the cyclic nature of just nature.
mhm,
And so, we have seasons, the rotation, the rhythm. You think about universal law too, when you think about energy movement.
mhm,
And so, I think it's just part of the rhythm. It's just that the world doesn't slow down. So when I slow down, I still need to keep up with the world. And so it just kind of feels
mhm,
resistant, if that makes sense.
mhm. Right. And I think you bring up a good point because culturally, we're not, I think, especially here in the US, we don't really allow for the replenishment times, the time, even in our regular day, in many, many other countries, people take a couple of hours off in the middle of the day to replenish.
Mhm.
Maybe that's when their family has their big meal and they can gather and replenish with just the love of family and have some food and relax a little bit and then step back in. I don't think that we as a culture allow ourselves that day to day, never mind to go with the seasons, right?
Yeah. Seriously. And, the other thing I think of when you started talking was self care. You know how people are like, I'm doing this self care regimen or this and that. And like, I don't know if what we're hearing is actual self care or what we're actually
Mm-hmm.
doing self care in all cases. Like, I think the replenishment of energy is like feeding your physical body. And if you don't create space to feed it, then you're not allowing it space to heal either.
Mm-hmm. I'm in complete agreement. And coming up next, we're going to talk about energy work for healing. We'll be back. Hey there, Wendy Jo from the Grow podcast. We're talking about energy healing today. And, since energy can neither be created nor destroyed, it follows to me that it can certainly be transferred through the hands from one person to another, or even to yourself for healing purposes. Place your hands somewhere on your body and feel the energy flow, feel them warm up, and see what happens. In time, you can use that to heal yourself and perhaps others. And we're back. Today we're talking about energy and energy healing as well. Um, so uh, have you ever had any energy work done?
I've had some people, so I don't really understand energy work. I don't know if when people say it, I understand what they mean. I'll say it that way. And
Okay.
so I've had somebody do Reiki on me. Uh, and I want to say that I think I experienced something or I was able to resonate with the message, but I don't really I don't know how I feel about energy work being done to me. I'll put it that
Okay.
way.
Okay. Yeah, I think, people call it all different things, and Reiki kind of became really popular, right? Using that word for energy healing. That's a Japanese method and system of healing that has like different symbols that you have to kind of draw with your hands. I don't, I don't want to say that I know everything, all the ins and outs of Reiki, because I don't.
Mhm.
Um, but it is, some people do find relief with it, and you can do self healing too. But the thing is, so what I feel is that anyone can channel energy through their hands, right? Just
Yes,
like when we use the pendulum, we're harnessing that energy from our higher self or spirit guide, wherever you think it's coming from, to move the pendulum and get answers. Same thing, we're channeling energy through our hands. Like we said in the beginning, you can't create or destroy energy, so it's there, right? It's within us, around us, and we can harness it and have it come through our hands.
yeah.
Um, so, I don't really resonate with, specific systems of energy work, although I have received some healing from people. Reiki and Eden energy work is another system that's really quite complicated, actually. And so when I've had those done for different reasons, I can say that I did it. They did help me.
Mhm.
Um, so is it worthwhile, or do you have to learn a specific way? I don't think you have to, but I think if you want to, and it resonates with you, and when you are learning, it feels right. Cool, you know. But I also think that you can come up with your own way, especially as you develop and grow and you start to hear and see. You might even see inside the body. You might, whatever gifts that you have that come forward as you put your hands on yourself or someone else, just kind of go with it and, journal about your experiences and see what the person feels.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think so. I have a very natural ability to want to resist any type of system. And so
Why am I not surprised at that? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
it comes very naturally to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the thing that I don't resonate with is the fact that it's a system. And because I do believe that spiritual work is very individualized, and if everybody's doing the same performative measure, there
Mm-hmm.
are a lot of people who are just performing the measure and not necessarily receiving the message. And so
Right.
I think that's the thing that makes me want to question it when I'm interacting with different practitioners. But at the same time, I do believe that everybody and anybody has the ability to receive messaging through energy work,
Mm-hmm.
or, and I don't know if we described it while we were recording, but how I receive it is different than the way that you receive it. And I need a certain type of circumstance in order for me to receive it properly and be able to discern it. Whereas we didn't talk about yours, but, others may have more ability to do it in any situation. And so I think the difference, though, is how, I guess, comfortable or what type of relationship you have with it, because it actually can be quite scary to
Mm-hmm.
receive other people's energy, especially when it's big, scary, hot energy.
Right. And so that's the thing. So you always want to protect yourself if you're doing some healing for someone else. I'll set those boundaries in my mind. Like, I only want to see and hear and feel what they would want me to know, right? And if they have any type of, you're not, so the energy comes through you, you're not using your own. So just let it flow through you, through your hands, and kind of see what you get.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. I just when
I struggle with the flow through me part. I absorb it.
oh,
I
okay.
have a very, very big struggle.
Right, right. And so just kind of being open, doing some breathing and just letting it flow through. I mean, I'm with you. I'm sort of a little resistant to these, learn this system and this is how you do it exactly. Because I really believe that each person has abilities that we don't even know what they are. So you have to let it flow and see what happens.
Yeah.
If you're only learning a particular system, it's just kind of like with the tarot cards, too. If you only memorize and read the book, right, then you're not leaving, and perhaps you're not leaving a lot of room for your own intuition and interpretation.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess even for me, because I have this very you probably too, like research kind of mentality.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I explored it, I did start approaching it like I was doing a research project.
Right, right.
And
Yes.
then I quickly learned that it didn't matter how much I learned. It was really about the feeling I had with the card. Because I just don't have time to be sitting there researching too. But, you know, being able to take it and leverage it. And I used it mostly for myself, for my own
Mhm.
personal development. And once I set the real intention behind like the experience, then it kind of shifted my relationship with it.
Right. It's the same thing with energy work. And, I'm sure many people would argue with me that point. And there are people who, have gone to great lengths to learn a particular way. to approach the energy and use it. And I respect that. I'm not saying that I think that's all bad or wrong. I just think if we don't tap into our own intuition and allow the flow and see what happens, we'll never know what the person might be, capable of doing and helping with.
Facts. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And I think so. With Eden energy work, for instance, there's a lot of these really different movements and things that they do. But I had a very specific experience where I was in the hospital and they were trying to. I had had this weird episode of vertigo where the whole room flipped upside down. Like I was asleep, I woke up and the whole room looked upside down. Like
Uh,
I thought I had like a major stroke or something. It was really
that sounds.
crazy. Yeah. And I couldn't, I get up to walk and was like, just couldn't right myself. It was really, really bad. So I went to the hospital. They thought maybe it was my heart. And when they got me to a room, this friend of mine who does Eden energy healing said, "Do you mind if I do a treatment?" And she did. Um, all kinds of different movements and things. She had me doing different movements and the energy. Whatever she did, I got better.
Oh,
And,
okay.
yeah, I got better and didn't need any surgery. Didn't They were kind of baffled at the hospital because some of my tests had been off, but then that was fine.
Yeah.
And I left.
Wow.
So
No more questions. We're good.
right, so I think, you know I mean, people might have all kinds of explanations for that, but I've really felt like that, healed, like it helped me and I felt better and I was able to go home.
Yeah,
So I feel like I can't really argue with that.
right.
And if it takes, a lot of learning of this system to be able to do something like that, well, cool. Right.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's great. That's great.
And on that note, we'll be right back.
Are you a healer? You will be surprised how many people told me no. I found that a lot of people believe that healing only comes outside of you. But I beg to differ. Have you ever gone through the grieving process? That process is a healing process. It's just well known. We go through similar processes when we experience different types of trauma, pain, or hurt. Many of us run away from those processes though. But for those of us who don't, I consider you a healer. If you are a nurse or healthcare professional, I believe that we are healers. I also believe even if you are not, you are also a healer. It is just a matter of identifying how you heal. So I ask again, are you a healer? Have you heard of the Cannabis Nursing School? It's a place where cannabis nursing, entrepreneurship, and spirituality meet. The High Align Tribe is waiting for you, and it's so easy to find. CannabisNursingSchool.com.
Hey there, friends. If you're an intuitive like me, you have thoughts and feelings about your own health and sometimes the health of others. What you're dealing with is medical intuition, but you probably don't know how to harness it. Hey, I met this wonderful woman named Gina, and she's doing a training on medical intuition with her company, The Heal World. Let's face it, there's lots of people getting sicker and sicker, and they often don't find answers with mainstream medicine. We have lots of technology, but we're missing the key, medical intuition. If you'd like to learn more, you could email her at gina@blisslife.com or give her a call at 352-888-2100. The Heal World. And we're back. So when I first started learning about hands-on healing, basically, the mentor that was helping me, he was like, just put your hands on someone's shoulders, right? Because their head and shoulders is kind of where you get a lot of feedback, you can feel a lot of energy. Just put them on shoulders, um, and ask spirit to just come through you with the energy through your hands to the person.
Mhm.
Right. Sometimes people have a little um, affirmation that they say, or some kind of prayer, whatever you want to call it, to kind of get the energy flowing. Um, with the systems of energy healing, they have specific things they want you to do. But for me, because I do most things intuitively, I just came up with my own
Okay.
thing that I say, and then ask for the flow. And what happens is my hands heat up.
Mhm.
Either my hands will heat up, or the person like will say that they feel heat coming through.
Yeah.
um and very occasionally it's cold, which what I learned, because kept getting messages anytime it was cold, is that the person has some kind of an infection. So I don't know if that's specific to me. I've known other people that get that feedback too, where that it'll be really cold if there's some kind of infection going on in the person. So,
Yeah, that makes sense to me because when I think about infection, I think of a lot of constriction in an area. And so I could see it being very weak energy, which generally is that colder, like
mhm.
constricted energy. So that makes sense to me. Um, I've never actually done what you just described. Like I haven't intentionally went off to heal. But when you described it, have you ever worked with myrrh?
Yeah, yeah, the oil,
Yeah,
or
and
the
you
yeah.
put it in your hands, and when
uh
it heats up, and when you take the heat, you harness the heat, and then you'll put it on an area of the body that you're trying to heal.
mhm.
And so, I didn't consider that as healing work. I really thought more of like herbal work, I guess. Like that's kind of
Right.
where I landed with the concept. But I guess I have now that I'm talking through it. And
Mhm.
so, generally, and I only do it on myself. I only work with myself, and because my healing journey, I feel like I'm very in the very early stages of it, and so I don't feel like at least from here behind me, I don't feel like I have been in a place to be able to offer anybody that type of healing,
Mhm.
um, because I'm still learning what I feel like calibrated and balanced and intentional and cleansed. And
Right.
so, um, with that being said, I think the thing that happens, I mentioned that I absorb a lot. And so sometimes I do receive energy in a way that isn't necessarily healthy. And I have to be very intentional about boundaries and even
Mhm.
separating physically in order to protect that because I'm like a sponge in a lot of ways. And
Right.
I haven't completely figured out how to get the energy to move and flow through me as opposed to attaching to me.
Interesting. Right. Yeah, it's a skill definitely to figure that out. I am a really visual person, so if I feel their energy and it doesn't feel good and I don't want to absorb it, because being an empath, we do absorb also, right? I picture them in a glass box
Mhm.
that they can't get out of, right? So we can hear each other, but I'm not feeling their energy because I kind of block them off.
Mhm.
um, I don't know if that makes any sense, but it kind of works for me. So like I'm sitting with someone and I can kind of feel that energy's not so great. So I just sort of put that box around them.
That actually sounds like it would work for me. That I think that'll work.
Yeah, I think it does. It just really depends on what type of person you are, but I bet it would work for you. And and then we can talk and I can hear them and I can even offer some energy healing if they want it. But I don't have to feel what's coming out of them.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, and it is really great to practice on yourself. So like if you have an area that's hurting, you can just kind of lay your hands over it and ask for the energy to flow through and just leave them as long as it takes to have it feel better. and, journal about your experiences, so I'm really big on people discovering their own abilities and trying, just try it out and see what you feel, because you just never know what you might be capable of doing, to help another person or yourself. And as you journal, you can look back on that and see what you've learned and what will work for you.
Yeah, retrospective like analysis is definitely
Yes.
something important in this space, because sometimes you'll go through and you'll feel and you'll experience different things that you don't really recognize is a thing that you should have paid attention to in that moment.
Right.
But once you see the patterns over time, whether it's through written journal, I also do voice recordings,
Hmm.
and go back and you can hear the patterning in your experiencing. You're like, wait, I think that's a thing.
Right.
You
Right.
know?
Yes. And you're basically coming up with your own style of healing, whether it's for yourself and your family, or whether you decide that it's something you want to deliver to help other people.
Yeah, for sure.
Keep the energy flowing.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, have a good week, everyone. Bye.